Chiefs Kingdom, you're watching the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Jay Sanders, and we have new information on Kadarius Toney and whether or not he was offsides in that call, and maybe he was offsides the entire game. Well, an ESPN insider talked about this and said that, man, maybe it should have been called earlier and it could have been avoided later in the game. So that's the first topic, the ref show. And then we talk about Andy Reid, how he still has confidence in Kadarius Toney and that they're going to trust him throughout the rest of the season. Plus, is the number one seed still possible for the Kansas City Chiefs? We mentioned that in the later half of the show, but for right now, let's kind of get talking about these refs. And I think before we get talking about the analytics, everything behind it, whether Toney was off, if you're tired of the ref show, listen, I think even 2 weeks ago, we could talk about this. The pass interference against MVS that wasn't called. There was a lot of penalties that I think were inconsistent in the Chiefs game this past Sunday. And if you're tired of it and you just want to see at least consistency from the NFL refs, then hit that like button. Because I don't know about you, I'm tired of this freaking ref show on turf. So spam that like button. Let's get as many as we can because guess what? Refs stink. Let's get going here. Dan Orlovsky is that NFL insider who talked about Mr. Kadarius Toney. And what he said was this. Never once in that same alignment did the official ever warn him, hey, you have to get back. So is he offside on that final play? Yeah, he probably is. And he was 3, 4, 5 other times in that game. So it is incumbent upon the officials in that situation to make sure he gets warned because that final play happened multiple times within that football game. Now, he is referencing that Kadarius Toney was offsides this entire game. And he has valid proof. He had 3 pictures to support his evidence that were not that final play. Here's one. You see that blue line? That's the line of scrimmage. Kadarius Toney, he is stepping on that line, just like the final play. Flag wasn't thrown here. Well, how about, okay, maybe it was just one other time. Well, then he found another play. He's also offsides here, right? Flag wasn't thrown there. There was no warning given there. Okay? But it was only 2 times, right? No, he found a third one. Orlovsky watched every snap and continued to find it. I'm telling you, it is just insane. They continue to just look over here and keep finding him being stepping off sides. There is a legitimate argument behind all this. Like, Orlovsky isn't just pulling this out. He watched every snap and saw that Kadarius Toney may have been offsides 5 times. Now, that's not to say that he shouldn't have been offsides, but it's the fact that there's a lack of consistency in the NFL. And both Mahomes and Reid kind of commented on this yesterday and post-game that it wasn't exactly the penalty they were really concerned with or upset about. It was the fact that Andy Reid has coached for over 25,000 snaps, and that was the first offensive offsides call on him. And on top of which, if he was lined up in that way the entire game, why was it not called before? That wouldn't have happened in that time. But instead, they're just not consistent. And that was the ultimate thing was you have to have a relationship and want to see consistently throughout these refs, and it hasn't been. What's a catch? What's roughing the passer? What's offensive offsides? Because I'm kind of wondering what it is. Because let's go to last night's game. Doubleheader on Monday Night Football. Jalen Waddle. What's the difference? He's on the line. Now, I will kind of take myself back and play devil's advocate to myself, saying that the line of scrimmage that you see on the TV is not exactly always the line of scrimmage. As you can see here with Toney, that football is a little bit back than that line. But at the same time, there is just a level of consistency that has to be had between these officials, and it's just not there. And I don't really understand what to do in terms of how to kind of work this out and overall make it to where these refs understand that it's not that we expect them to be perfect. They're human. But at the same time, you do expect consistency. You do expect these guys to come in and honestly just call the game properly throughout the entirety of the game. Carl Cheffers was the official in Sunday's game. He has a history with the Chiefs. If you remember, he actually was the one who called the holding penalty on Eric Fisher back in 2016 that ultimately helped to the Steelers winning that game. He also had a couple of calls against the Chiefs, including the roughing the passer on Chris Jones, where he strip-sacked Derek Carr, called the roughing the passer there. And he's been labeled as a guy in this Chiefs locker room that they don't like. In fact, if you remember back when Travis Kelce talked about Cheffers, saying this. It's an ignorance that ref number 51, talking about Sheffers, should never be allowed to wear a zebra jersey again. I mean, this guy does not have a good rep in the freaking Chiefs locker room. And I understand that Kadarius Toney was offsides on that last play call, but at the same time, if there was consistency throughout the previous portion of the game, it would have been a little easier to take. It's kind of a tough situation here, I understand, but it's not the fact that the penalty was called. It's the fact that it wasn't consistent and that there was previous times in that football game where the offsides was not called and it looks like he was offside. I'm fine with you calling it. Just call it consistently throughout the entire game and consistently throughout the league. I do have to stop here, though, because Kadarius Toney was offside. He was. And this is not the first time he's lost a game for the Chiefs. Go back to the first game of the year. He had that ball bounce out of his hands that resulted in a pick six. He dropped the ball in that game as well that would have been in field goal range. Is Kadarius Toney worth a roster spot in your opinion? Like, do you think he's worth it to stay on this team? Because I'm starting to question that a little bit. I mean, MVS and Toney, $2 million for Kadarius, $14 million for MVS in this offseason. Do they cut him? I don't know, but let me know in the comment section, is Kadarius Toney deserving of a roster spot on this Kansas City Chiefs squad? We'll have to see if he keeps it. His stats, well, they say something else. 25 receptions, 164, 1 touchdown, 6.6. The sucky part is his stats could be so much better if he just caught the ball a couple different times. So much better. But yet, they're just not there. Now, there is one person who still shows confidence in Kadarius Toney, and that's Andy Reid. He has consistently said that all year, not just in Toney, not just in MVS, but this entire wide receiver room. He has consistently come to the podium, come to his press conference and say, hey, you can ask about the receivers all you want, but I'm going to show confidence in my guys. Now, we'll give you the direct quote and exactly what he said in just a moment, but if you're looking for holiday meals here and you want to make sure you stay on tack with your nutritional needs, well, use factormeals.com/ChiefsChat50. You're going to get $50 off America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Now, this bustling holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, flavorful meals to fuel you on jam-packed days. Well, Factor can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all of your holiday to-dos. Cross meal prepping off your list this holiday season with Factor. Skip the meal prepping, skip the grocery trip, the shopping, the prepping, and even cleaning up. You get Factor's fresh, never frozen meals that are delivered straight to your door. They're ready also in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat, then enjoy. Now, Factor isn't just for dinner, though. You can count on extra convenience at any time of the day with an assortment of 55 plus add-ons to suit various preferences and tastes. Choose from quick breakfast items, lunch to go, grab and go snacks, and ready to drink cold pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies. Once again, head to factormeals.com/ChiefsChat50 and use that code ChiefsChat50. You're going to get 50% off. Once again, ChiefsChat50 at factormeals.com/ChiefsChat50 to get 50% off. We love you. We care about you. So we're going to put that in the comments and in the description down below. Go click that link and get 50% off your first Factor Meals. The wide receivers are getting too much slack. I mentioned how Andy Reid is pretty confident in this wide receiver room, but I think there has to come to a point where you have to start blaming them. You have to still be hard on them and understand that you can trust them while also going and saying, listen, he's got to be better. But they have not said that. He said this about Kadarius Toney yesterday in his press conference. The thing I know is he makes plays. He makes plays when he has the ball in his hand, and that's important. He's a young guy. He doesn't have a ton of experience, but I think he's getting better every week. I don't see that as being a negative. Well, Andy, let's start looking at the negatives because, listen, I love you. You are a great coach. You and Patrick Mahomes have been the best coaches, the best teammates to these guys all season long. But at the same time, there has been multiple problems. I mentioned game one. You had Kadarius Toney where he right there dropped the ball that would have gotten him in a field goal range. He also had a ball that bounced out of his hands for a pick six, and there goes that game. You go to the Packers game, dropped ball. I mean, there's pass interference, I guess, yeah. You go to the Eagles game, dropped by MVS. That could have been a win. You go to this past game, offsides on Kadarius Toney. There's 4 of those 5 losses that you can directly correlate to the wide receivers. Now, I'm not saying that you can directly correlate a game to one play, but at the same time, those receivers dropped balls in those games the entirety of the game. And yet it still came down to them, and they couldn't make the play at the right time. I have seen some comments swirling, though, about maybe it's not the wide receivers. Maybe it's Matt Nagy. So I have to ask this question. Who do you blame for 5 losses? I mean, the Chiefs fans, the Chiefs Kingdom, they expected a 3 to 4 loss season. You're at 5, and you got 4 weeks to go. Who do you blame? If you think it's the wide receivers, then I want you to type WR. If you think it's Matt Nagy, then I want you to type MN. I think this is an interesting topic because Matt Nagy, although he doesn't call the plays, has the offensive scheme ready and kind of gives that out to Andy Reid. I don't know what to go from there. Is the number 1 seed still an option? Now, the loss versus the Bills hurt in more ways than one, but is there a way the Chiefs can make that way into the 1 seed in the AFC? Well, let's look at that AFC playoff picture and kind of see exactly what we can do here with how to find a way for this Chiefs squad to jump up to the 1 spot. So the Dolphins losing last night to the Titans was a huge help, an absolute huge help as it pushed the Dolphins back to just 1 game ahead of the Chiefs. But the thing is, they're going to need the Baltimore Ravens to lose 2 games in the final 4 weeks, and the Chiefs will have to win out. So there's a lot of things you have to look at, but the first thing that you have to do is to win out. That's ultimately all you can control at this point. If you win out, you can let the cards unfold. The Ravens have the Niners. They have to play along with the Dolphins. The Dolphins play the Cowboys. So here's the thing that you could do. You could see the Dolphins lose to the Cowboys, beat the Ravens, and the Ravens lose to the Dolphins and lose to the Niners. That puts you all tied with 5 losses on the season as long as the Chiefs win out. And the Chiefs would have the better record over the Baltimore Ravens and head-to-head against the Dolphins. Therefore, the Chiefs could jump up to that 1 spot. So there is a shot for the 1 seed, but you now are not relying on yourself. You're relying on multiple different things to happen. Luckily, last night's loss by the Dolphins really, really helped, and you're rooting for Miami now to beat Baltimore rather, and then Baltimore to lose to the Niners. We appreciate you watching, though, and if you're excited for this Chiefs squad to hopefully come out and just run through these 4 games like playoff-like games, then hit that like button. And as always, subscribe to youtube.com/ChiefsTV. We appreciate it as always. Chiefs Kingdom. Peace out.